I don't know how to say this without it sounding weird, so I'm just gonna come out and say it. I have lots of pictures with chicks that have written the gradual report on their chests. Every single one of them makes me smile. But there is an unintended consequence. You see, I've looked at so many pictures of boobs with the gradual report written on them that now when I look at pictures of boobs that don't have the gradual report written on them, I think there's something wrong with the boobs. So, you know, keep that in mind. And now some tenacious tulip dropping news. It's an exercise I do to help loosen up my mouth. In February of 1637, the Dutch tulip market had just taken off. You might be thinking, holy ball sack in space. Tulips? Who cares? Well, since tulips start with T, and my dog likes peanut butter, you should care. What? That makes no sense at all. Neither does selling stock on impulses. Yeah, I think is what I was getting at. In the 1600s, tulip connoisseurs were paying more and more for the bulb. The tipping point of purchasing tulips came in 1633, when one connoisseur decided to trade an entire house for a single flower. This sparked a flower frenzy. Tulips were then traded on something like a stock market and exchanged hands several times a day. Each time, the price of the tulip escalated to increasingly grotesque heights.
Sound familiar yet?
The market climaxed on February 5th, 1677, when a family of orphans that had planted a bed of tulips near their father's grave traded the tulips for 90,000 guilders, equivalent to $10 million in today's society. You might be wondering what happened next. What happened was what always happens when people start trading based on perspective values that are not tied to anything tangible in the real world at all.
Sound familiar yet? Sound familiar yet?
People came to their senses and decided not to pay for the incredibly stupid price they've negotiated for a flower.
Sounding real familiar now, isn't it? Real familiar.
Ultimately, the courts became filled with contract dispute terms and shit. And they decided that the purchasers had met their obligation if they were able to cover 3.5% of the agreed upon price. That's an incredible loss. I know. But believe it or not, that's the value of a flower. Needless to say, fortunes were gained and lost. The old adage comes to mind. Those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. George Shantanian. But let me bring that into a sharper focus still, with a quote from Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. And I quote, "What we've learned from history is that we don't learn from history." End quote. Beat a monkey peanut butter, check out my life on D-Diary09, and watch the bouncing boobs. I'll see you tenacious little tulip traders tomorrow, where we continue bringing the heat
to the screams of silence.
I don't even know what that means. To be honest with you, I have no idea what that means myself. It just sounded cool, you know?